You know, we have to go back to this Al-Qaeda issue here because all the time he spoke, even in 2013, some of his publications were online talking about how many security operatives were calling him from his base from Nigeria asking one or two questions. And you just also reminded us that no one has ever listened to him, even when he left his base where he was to come back home to see if he can also negotiate on behalf of the group. The government didn't take that option. We have a new government which you're part of. Is it too late to contact him since the group has so much, seem to have so much faith in Ahmed Salkida?
Well, there is one thing: you invite a person to sit down with you and advise you, and another thing also to implement the advice which he has given you. If I can write a 2-page or 3-page of an advice and give, and then it is taken and then it is put in a file and nothing happens to it, and then you can't say that you have taken my advice and it has not worked. So I've been part of the government, but from the legislative side, I have my own very limitation. Issues that has to do with the use of force or dialogue is simply an executive initiation, and it has to come directly from the top levels of power, and then they are the ones that will grant waiver for whoever wants to initiate such a process, and they are also the ones that will implement it. If you go to a negotiating table and it was agreed and accepted that the insurgents members who are in detention should be released and in exchange for the girls, it's not for a senator or any member of the parliament to implement it. It's the authorities that are in control of the military, the prisons, and also the decisions of what to do. And I believe that we should do everything possible to get these persons who are in captivity back, and this include all sacrifices that we need to do. But I believe now there is the confidence. The confidence is more on the military side, whereby it is still believed that at least with the current action, they can still get the girls back. Well, if they are confident of themselves, then we continue to give them time to deliver in as much that they have achieved a certain result. But I have always said it, that raiding a camp that has such a girl, such a number of persons, certainly will come with a lot of consequences which we also need to take. But there are other sides who believe that negotiation will simply embolden them, will simply give them the leverage to continue to do what they have been doing. But I said, as far as I'm concerned, if you have a son or a daughter, it's getting him back that matters, not other academic or hypothetical expressions of what may happen after such things happen.
Senator, does the comments from former President Obasanjo, does it help in any way, or it aggravates the matter when he says, if anyone thinks you know where the girls are, it's not true?
Well, I think he will say that if anyone says he knows where they are, and then through. But what he has not said is that there were no girls that were in captivity. Certainly, it's going to be difficult for anybody to say this is where they are, because if anyone knew where they are, certainly they could have. He could have provided the necessary information that will lead to their rescue. But what we know is that they are still there, being kept somewhere, and that there are channels which, if I believe, should be open, which the President Obasanjo himself could play a very big role there to get them back. But are we ready to negotiate and also implement what is put on the table? That's completely a different thing. Because I know what was before and even now, the issue has always been the dilemma of conceding to some of their demands to get these girls back. And I don't think the problem has to do with the process of the negotiation, but the last point of it, what becomes of this if that happens. And this is where everything got stuck.
You know, 2 years is such a long time in the life of a girl child. With that proof of life video that has just been released, what do you think that would do or mean to the parents of those girls?
Well, before the proof of life video, the only video Nigerians and the world depended on was the one which was released over a year ago by the insurgents themselves. The proof of life video is a new testimony that these girls are alive and there is still hope, and that we shall simply continue to put more effort in it. And also, if you the credibility of this video has to do with the very fact that the girls that were in the video were also in this last video that was forwarded by the insurgents. So I think if the government have accepted that they have seen that video, certainly it must have come from a source that was provided for them. And I believe that such kind of source should be valuable to get these girls out in terms of working out the details for negotiation.
Do you think talking about this whole rescue effort or talking about the whole Chibok girls experience will aggravate or help matters? Because for some security persons, they think that sometimes such issues shouldn't be discussed.
Well, you know the way we do things in Nigeria, or naturally with human beings. If you don't talk about issues like this, there is a tendency for it to be swept under the carpet. And that is why I give credit to the Bring Back Our Girls campaign group. Without their campaign, without their agitation, this issue could have sunk into politics or sunk into the memory of persons in the position of power. So by their agitation, they raise the torch of freedom and hope for these girls. And by their agitation, they also keep the people in power on their feet. And by their agitation, they also raises the hope of those whose loved ones are still in captivity. And by their agitation, they become the civil resistance to the insurgency. And by their agitation, they send a clear message to the very world that there are Nigerians that are conscious and that are committed to keeping the campaign to get these girls back home. So nobody should stop anybody from talking about it or campaigning for it. Politicians, those of us on the seat, need to continue to be irritated, we need to continue to be disturbed that there were persons who are there in captivity, and we must not relent. And if they don't do it, certainly that will be swept over by memory. You can see what has happened in the past. There were abductions, there were kidnappings that happens. Once it is out of the headlines, and nobody cares about it again. So I think this is the right thing to do. Nobody should stop anybody from talking. If you can't bring the girls back, if you have no idea of how you can bring them back, you shouldn't also stop people from speaking out their mind.
Well, Senator, while this matter was being debated on the floor of the Senate, you decried the way that issues affecting the poor are treated with levity. Does that then mean that you're saying that the government is not handling this properly?
Well, when I speak, I'm speaking in general terms. What happens when you have people being kidnapped or abducted or taken hostage, as it is in this case? And it is the nature of the way things are addressed. And I have said there is a class nature to how hostages are being treated by governments, both the past and the present. And that is what I said, is that when you have a son of a highly placed person abducted or kidnapped, it takes very few weeks to see him being rescued. When you have the daughters or the in-laws or even the security man or drivers or people highly placed in power, prominent in politics, prominent in business, prominent in whatever, you see them, in very few weeks they're back. But when you have the children of the poor in captivity, then you have such kind of academic analysis. If we give them this, they will go and pick more people. If you release their members, they will do this. But what I believe is that for whoever is in detention, as far as life of a human being is concerned, we should take it very seriously. And that was why I made that point on the floor of the Senate.
Well, the Senate then summoned the NSA security chiefs to appear before them and brief them on what is going on. Is he going to brief the House or the committee in charge of security?
Well, that has not been clear, but certainly the issues like this are not, when they are going to be invited, they are usually invited by the committees to brief or executive session to brief the House. If there are classified informations which they may not like to disclose publicly, then it will be held behind the doors. But what is most important is that they need to brief us on the progress made so far, and also what have they been able to achieve and establish on this issue, because this idea of these girls still in captivity is seriously staining the image of our country and making it impossible to score the successes made in any field as long as these girls continue to be where they are.
Being a senator from the northern part of the country, our first guest tried to see the amount of damage this insurgency must have caused, especially in the education sector. What do you think we should be doing now? 2 years down the line, even before that, we've also seen what the amount of lack that the children are going through in terms of education. How can we help the children of Nigeria's northeast and a huge percentage of the northern Nigeria?
Well, the insurgency has raised a lot of debate on the socio-economic and political dimension to development in the northeastern part of Nigeria. And there is no doubt about the statistics are there on the ground. The northeast is the most underdeveloped part of Nigeria. It is also the most poverty-ravaged and stricken part of Nigeria. So there are immediate and long-term solutions to this problem. The immediate is to restore order and security and clear the insurgents and get these girls back, which is the most immediate thing to do. The long term has to do with the reconstruction, a Marshall Plan for the northeastern part of Nigeria, which will involve investment in agriculture, in education, in health and infrastructure. The Senate has already worked out a bill for the Northeastern Development Commission, which is set to address these very problems. And also there is the fund that was established for the victims. And such, I believe that a new plan to bring about development in northeastern part of Nigeria, which will include investment in education, is very much important, because after we're done with the insurgency, we also have to do with the consequences, the scars of war, the violence and the aftermath of such crisis, which now will be tackled by developmental intervention in those areas which I have mentioned earlier.
All right, Senator Shehu Sanni, thank you for your time today.